So, for those who don't know what the eruption of Pompeii, right? It was this volcano that erupted in Italy. Yes, there was that explanation there, but in case you're like, what is Pompeii? What is Mount Vesuvius? There was this volcano that exploded, causing people to die a lot. So you had that. So on August 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius suddenly erupted, sending a towering column of ash, gas, and pumice into the sky. Right, you got that there. The eruption was accompanied by intense volcanic activity, including the release of pyroclastic flows, fast moving currents of superheated gas, ash, and debris that cascaded down the slopes of the volcano. So that's kind of crazy to see how that happened. So the residents of Pompeii, unaware of the impending danger, were caught off guard by the eruption. The thick ash cloud blocked out the sun and triggered a period of darkness. Ash and pumice rained down upon the city, burying it under layers of volcanic material. So this just destroyed this whole entire town, this whole entire city, right? And there was like a lot of dead bodies, and it was just crazy. You're just getting to see what it's like, really.
You are about to experience the James Rambling Show, hosted by James Patton.
Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Show for yet another episode. And in today's episode, I'm actually going to be talking about more so classical history, because if you're following the episodes that I've been doing on history, we talked about Vikings, the British Empire, the Soviet Union, and the Cold War, and we did all of that stuff. But I've not touched on the more classical era, where it was ages and ages and ages and ages and ages before the Cold War, before the British Empire, maybe just a bit after the Vikings, or in that AD DE kind of era that went down. So the few topics that I will be discussing in terms of this sort of thing will be mostly the eruption of Pompeii, the Amazons, and how this idea that you had the Romans copying the Greeks, and these are mainly the three ideas of classical history that are very important to know, and I want to make you learn about it because it's quite an interesting. And I remember learning this stuff at school before I dropped out, so it just gives me this time to make you learn about something for a change. So with that said, we're gonna probably read more information, and I was thinking about doing ancient Egypt and stuff like that, but it's not actually a topic that I'm well versed in or have an interest in as much, so I'm just gonna restrict it to the things that I personally find interesting. So let's get straight into this, right? So the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1779 AD resulted in the devastating destruction of the ancient Roman city of Pompeii. So you have that there, right? Mount Vesuvius, located near the Bay of Naples in Italy. So this happened in Italy, had been dormant for centuries before this catastrophic event. So for those who don't know what the eruption of Pompeii, right? It was this volcano that erupted in Italy. Yes, there was that explanation there, but in case you're like, what is Pompeii? What is Mount Vesuvius? There was this volcano that exploded, causing people to die a lot. So you had that. So on August 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius suddenly erupted, sending a towering column of ash, gas, and pumice into the sky. Right, you got that there. The eruption was accompanied by intense volcanic activity, including the release of pyroclastic flows, fast moving currents of superheated gas, ash, and debris that cascaded down the slopes of the volcano. So that's kind of crazy to see how that happened. So the residents of Pompeii, unaware of the impending danger, were caught off guard by the eruption. The thick ash cloud blocked out the sun and triggered a period of darkness. Ash and pumice rained down upon the city, burying it under layers of volcanic material. So this just destroyed this whole entire town, this whole entire city, right? And there was like a lot of dead bodies, and it was just crazy. You're just getting to see what it's like, really letting you know what it's like. So Pompeii was quickly enveloped in a deadly mix of ash and gas, leading to the suffocation and asphyxiation of many inhabitants. The intense heat from the pyroclastic flows caused buildings to collapse and incinerated organic materials. The city was effectively frozen in time as the volcanic debris sealed it from the outside world. Okay, so yeah, there was that. The tragic event resulted in the loss of thousands of lives and the complete destruction of Pompeii. The city remained buried and forgotten for nearly 1,700 years until its rediscovery in the 18th century. Archaeological excavations have since revealed a remarkable preserved snapshot of Roman life, providing valuable insights into the daily routines, architect, and culture of the ancient world. Right, a lot of information there, but you're just getting to see what this is like. Right, it's kind of insane. So there's this little last bit here: the eruption of Mount Vesuvius and the subsequent preservation of Pompeii serve as a poignant reminder of the destructive power of volcanic activity and have significantly contributed to our understanding of ancient civilizations. Today, Pompeii stands as a UNEC, UNESCO World Heritage Site and a popular tourist destination, offering a glimpse into the past and the tragic events that unfolded on that fatal date in 79 AD. So that was a lot to take in there, but it is one of the most well known events that happened in this whole Roman Greek history. I remember learning at school. It's crazy how this eruption happened and how the architects rediscovered it. There was all these elements added in there. Well, if you didn't know about this event, well, here you go, right? I'm making you learn something for a change. So we've covered the events of Pompeii. So now we're gonna move on to the Amazons. Right. So let's do this, right? So in classical history, the Amazons were a legendary group of warrior women who played a prominent role in Greek mythology and folklore, described as skilled fighters and formidable adversaries. The Amazons captured the imaginations of the ancient Greeks and became a recurring theme in art, literature, and historical accounts. So I remember learning about the Amazons, and they're pretty much like they was described, and they're skilled and everything like that. But they were pretty much the opposite of women. They were different to women. They had these male-like abilities. They had male-like features, stuff like that. Nice built and all like that, compared to normal women who had to cook in the house and stuff. So they were separate, if that makes sense. So definitely that, right? So you got this part here. According to Greek mythology, the Amazons were said to have originated from the various regions, including Anatolia, Scythia, and Libya. They were believed to live in matriarchal societies where women had positions of power and authority. So, stereotypically, you have these patriarchal societies ruled by men, but in this case, the Amazons were mostly matriarchal, meaning that it was mostly women controlling the society, sort of thing. So, you have that part there. Amazons were depicted as fierce and independent, known for their exceptional archery skills, horsemanship, and proficiency in combat, right? So you have that definitely indeed. So the most famous legend involving the Amazons is their conflict with the Greek hero Hercules. In the myth, Hercules was tasked with achieving the girdle of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. Despite initial hostilities, Hercules managed to win Hippolyta's favour and secure the girdle, resulting in a temporary alliance between the Greeks and the Amazons. Okay, so we have that part. The Amazons also made appearances in the Trojan War. So the Trojan War was this event, another kind of classical history event that happened, but it was very significant in this time. So aiding the Trojans against the Greek forces, the Queen of the Amazons, wait, hold on, give me a second. Penthesilea, right? So the Greek names are sort of hard to pronounce because I'm not Greek myself, so it's kind of hard to pronounce that sort of thing. So there's that, and then it says fought bravely, but was ultimately killed in the battle by the Greek hero Achilles. That's another like famous legend in Greek mythology sort of thing. So in addition to the mythological presence, the concept of the Amazons resonated in the minds of ancient historians. Some authors, such as Herodotus and Strabo, described real life tribes and societies in regions like Scythia that were believed to exhibit Amazon like characteristics, including female warriors and matriarchal structures. The fascinations with the Amazons continued into the Roman times, with the Roman poet Virgil incorporating them into his epic poem, the Aeneid. In later medieval and Renaissance literature, the Amazons became symbols for female power and independence. So it's kind of repeating itself there, but one big takeaway from this whole Amazon thing was the fact that this is translated all the way into modern times, as seeing how we had things like Wonder Woman, which embodied this whole feminist kind of strong woman sort of thing. This was kind of one of these inspirational things for women in history. So we have that there. While the historical existence of a distinct society of Amazons remains uncertain, their portrayal in classical history played a significant role in shaping Greek and modern cultural narratives. The Amazons presented a powerful and exotic other, embodying both fear and admiration, and their legends. The legend continues to captivate audiences today as a testament to the enduring allure of ancient mythology. So that was a giant load of information, but you just learnt the Amazons and how they were just pretty influential, pretty significant in classical history. So we get that part there. But my understanding of, like, personally, I only knew about the Amazons and all that stuff, like the Amazonians or whatever. I knew it from like Wonder Woman, then I learnt about it at school. I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's not just Wonder Woman. There was all of this other stuff before that that played a much bigger role into this whole thing. So it wasn't just Wonder Woman, it was the fact that, back in the day, back in like all of that. But the thing is, with this, it's a mythology, so some of it is kind of made up and just was theorized and created, and we had all these ideas, but because we saw that with Wonder Woman and because we saw all that stuff, it kind of has now translated into the real world. So because we have things in the world where you want to have independent women, you want to have all that. So it's kind of starting to make an influence. But this has been a constant theme with this history episode thing, because you see things that happened so many years ago, and now that thing that's happened so many years ago is now happening today. So that's what you're seeing with that. So now, with all of that out of the way, let's dive into how the Romans copied the Greeks. So this is an idea that has went on for a while. Like the Greeks and the Romans, I guess they had a rivalry, kind of like the British and the Scottish, like you learned in a couple of weeks back. So let's jump into that bit as well. So the Romans during the Republic and Empire, right? The Romans actually did have an empire, like the British Empire, and then you had the Roman Empire, which the Roman Empire, I'm pretty sure, was way before the British Empire. So greatly admired Greek civilization and consciously imitated many aspects of it. This process of imitation or cultural borrowing is often referred to as Hellenization, as it involves adopting and adapting various elements of Greek culture, art, architecture, wait, philosophy, and literature, right? So what the Romans were doing is they were seeing these things that the Greeks were doing, and they were like, oh wait, that looks so cool, let's do it now. that's kind of what was going on here. So we have that part. The Romans recognized the culture and intellectual achievements of the Greeks and sought to incorporate them into their own society. They admired Greek philosophy, particularly the works of Plato and Aristotle, and Roman intellectuals studied Greek texts and ideas extensively. Greek philosophy had a profound influence on Roman thinkers, shaping their views on ethics, politics, and the nature of knowledge. Right, so have that. We've not really talked about philosophy at all done on the podcast, but that was something that the Romans realized about the Greeks. They were like, oh wait, they have these ideas, they have these deep, that had all these ideas that they could just borrow and just make it their thing. It's like with me, with like, I'll just give an example here, right? Let's say I see a podcast, right? They're talking about this certain thing, and I'm like, okay, I want to talk about that now. So that's what the Greeks, what the Romans were doing. Like, oh wait, we could do this, we could do that, we could copy people and an inspirational sort of thing. All right, so it says here, artistically, the Romans were heavily influenced by the Greeks' aesthetics. Roman sculptures, for example, often emulated the styles and subjects of Greek sculpture with an emphasis on realistic human forms and idealized beauty. Right, Roman architecture similarly borrowed heavily from Greek designs, adopting the use of columns, pediment, pe- pediment, pediments, right, and intricate ornamentation, right. So okay, there's that. The Romans also adopted Greek reliefs. A Greek. Oh my god, dude! There's so many words that my brain just goes all over the place for some reason here. So let me read that again. So the Romans also adopted Greek religious beliefs, gods, and mythological stories, often equating Greek deities with their own. For example, Zeus became Jupiter, Aphrodite became Venus, and so on. This syncretism. Wait, hold on. Wait, syncretism, like synchronizing thing, whatever, right? It's helped bridge the cultural gap between the Romans and the Greeks, facilitating a smoother assimilation of Greek culture into the society. So I think that syncretism, well, whatever word, is to synchronize and make it all feel into one another, sort of thing. So that was kind of what the Romans were after, pretty much here. So literature was another area where the Romans emulated the Greeks. Roman poets such as Virgil and Ovid drew inspiration from the Greek epics, like the Iliad and the Odyssey, creating their own works that echoed the themes and the narrative structures of their Greek predecessors. Roman playwrights also adopted Greek dramas, translating and performing translating them for Roman audiences. In the realm of governance, the Romans looked to Greek political systems as models. They adopted and adapted various Greek institutions, including the concept of democracy and the division of power, to suit their own needs. The Roman Senate, for instance, drew inspiration from the Greek city-state assemblies. Alright, there's that. While the Romans did borrow extensively from Greek culture, it's important to note that they also made significant contributions and innovations of their own. Roman The Romans expanded upon Greek ideas and institutions, adapting them to their unique circumstances, leaving their own indelible mark on Western civilization. Jeez, man, so much information about this stuff, really. What the hell? Alright, so you got that, and then the Romans' admiration for Greek culture and their cons- uh, conscious efforts to emulate that and incorporate it played a pivotal role in the transmission of Greek knowledge and ideas to further generations by preserving and spreading Greek literature, philosophy, and art. Oh my god, so much words. The Romans helped ensure the enduring legacy of Greek civilization, even as they forged their own distinct identity. So, there you go, right? You've learnt about the eruption of Pompeii and how that had a big impact on that city. You learnt about the Amazons and how that has a big impact on the society of Greeks and how the Romans would go on to inspire themselves to copy the Greeks. So all these will be all pretty much tied together here, and it is a lot of information to take in. So there's definitely that. So there won't be any other history episodes. I was just doing this to talk about something different for a change, but now this is starting to feel repetitive because we're doing it in a similar way. If you did like this sort of change of pace, more informative, getting the right information there, putting it right next to me so I read it, all that, making sure I know what I'm saying. Because if you know the James Ramsey Show, we just had those times when we had no idea what we were saying, making up all this mumbo jumbo. So it was finally time. Why not? Why not mix it up a bit, right, and actually take a topic seriously? Yes, there are times when I mispronounce things, but remember, I'm using tons of information here, so it gets hard to sort of enunciate things because you're trying to break it down, sort of thing. So, other than that, really, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for next week. We'll be sure to maybe rotate back to the next couple topics we've talked about before. We'll see where it goes. But until then, this podcast will go on for as long as it needs to. And so I'm going to sign out. Hope you enjoyed this learning experience for was it 3 weeks? Three episodes, but episode 71, 72, and 73, all covering different aspects of history. Didn't matter what order they were in. So yeah, see ya. Bye. See you next week for another episode of James Rowland Show. Peace out.